Y'all already know what it is. Your boy Yaakov with it do. The outlet to reality. The holders podcast in Vegas and Chicago. What up? This is the place where you want to hide from your drama or maybe hide from your baby mama. Just kidding. But anyways, fans, thank you for staying tuned. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Cha-ching! And today we have a very special guest who I consider a friend, a brother, a teacher. Give it up for Shuey Wine. How's it going, brother?
Thank you. Thank you, Yaakov. I really appreciate you having me on. I love you, man. Oh my God, in that intro, I still, I don't know if I'm hiding from my baby mama. I mean, I don't know what that means, but all right, let's do it.
Oh man, brother. No, I'm happy to have you, man. It's been a minute, and I do want to share a little quick story that to get my audience to know a little bit about you. So recently, I was at your house 2 weeks ago for Shabbat. Beautiful Shabbat dinner. I think one of my favorite parts is that it was very intimate. Usually, you guys have about 20 people at every Shabbos dinner, but to have it just me and just you, your brother, Hemi, and your other brother, and Rabbi Wine and the Rebison, it was just so nice because it felt like I was part of the gang. And one thing I gotta say that your mom said that just made my day. I forgot to tell you this, Yaakov. I gotta be honest, but you from seeing what today happened and your stories and having a good time. I gotta say you're my favorite guest I've ever had on the Shabbos table, and I was just that was big for the Rebison to say that. I said thank you. You just made my day. But and it was just beautiful. It was powerful, and I gotta say, we had a very interesting, discussion about life, about marriage, about finding a partner, and I think you and I we could relate, brother, because I got to say, we're both at this moment we're single, but we're still good looking. I'm not gonna lie, we look fresh, and what and one of my
A man's
last
got to know his limitations. I'm not competing with you. Oh my God, can't do
oh,
it, man.
but to be honest, you look better than me because you got a nice suit, so I got to give you extra points. You know what I'm saying? Ding, ding, ding. You know what I'm saying? But
There we go. You got to rock the suit.
that's it. That's it. But I gotta say one last thing I said to you at the dinner table. I was like, look, brother, I gotta be honest, and you're my brother, and I have to tell you this, but there's something in my heart I'm gonna tell you. You're like, what's that? Hashem has someone special for you coming. Like, I don't know who it is.
Yeah, I remember that.
You remember that, right?
Yeah.
And the whole family, everyone was like, "Oh," like that was like the nicest, like the closing thing, right? The closing theme.
Because it was all in the buildup, man. You brought everyone in. You captivated everyone. I got something to tell you, and then boom, and then you closed it.
So that was my perspective that night. I had a good time. And what about you, Chewy? Tell us a little bit of that experience that you could remember from that Shabbos dinner.
Okay, so first of all, in terms of what my mother said, I could tell you this for just this is a fact. She meant it. Okay, it was coming from her heart. I wasn't there when she said it, but what I can tell you is that I mean that feeling was palpable. Sometimes, and we've been doing this for years, obviously years, decades. Having people, and some people you like, and some people, the truth is, you just don't like. Either it just don't like them and they have to be there, or they're part of a group, or what have you, and everyone just really like you. I mean, the feeling that I had is like we have to love other Jews as Jews, like God commands us to love other Jews. Actually, the source, it says v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You have to love your neighbor, your peer, as yourself. And after that Shabbos, I was thinking that, when I die, ultimately, after 120, you're sitting there rotting away, and you go up to God and you have the conversation talking about, what you did in this world, what you accomplished. I could genuinely say that I fulfilled the commandment that night of loving another Jew, just loving for the sake of loving. Like there's nothing else, just to be in that state. And I think my family felt it as well. And it was just, it's something you can't put your finger on it. It's not like a transactional, like detail that you could pinpoint. It was just like a feeling, emotion, a connection, really just loving another Jew. It was amazing. I loved that night. And afterwards, I was telling everyone, why don't let's have them again? Like, this is like a gold mine. We really loved it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, brother. I gotta say, one thing I gotta say, from that Shabbos meal and that dinner, I love that you all have your own ideas about a certain topic. And when we debate, right, everyone's pitching in like, oh, but what happens if this? I love that because, that's the only way you learn. You have to hear other perspectives, and that's how you grow. Because if everyone is in the same box in their own way, you can't really learn a lot, because then you feel like you know it all. But if you hear different aspects, I think that's beautiful. And I really liked it because at the end of, while we're all debating about a certain topic, we're having fun. No one's getting mad.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it was, and you're able to, right, you're able to have a conflict, and actually you become closer through that conflict, and you enjoy it. And then, like you're saying, again, that it all comes from there's a biblical source for that as well. The Mishnah teaches us actually one of the 48 ways, trying to get the exact wording. I'm not going to nail it, but there are different ways that the Talmud throughout the Mishnah and the Gemara describe how, through interacting with, it's called pilpul chaverim, which means friends, fine tuning each other, sharpening each other's minds. And, in a different place, it says to be able to speak something through, to be able to speak an idea through, to debate it, to see both sides of the coin, and to be able to do that with your family and people who you are emotionally close with as well. That's very important.
For many people that are not from Vegas, they don't know, but Shuey, you're also a rabbi, right? And I want to know, basically, so for people that don't know, Shuey Wine is the youngest rabbi I've ever had on the podcast, the youngest. But not only that, my brother has an interesting story. I want you to share more about this, on how you came into this walk of life, becoming a rabbi, and how you made a decision to basically retire, and finding a new calling. To share about that, because to be honest with you, when you told me on the phone, it was so inspiring. It was something different. I think that made you stand out from anyone that I've ever met. I want to hear more. If you could spill the beans, just not the cream, and what I'm saying,
not the cream.
Yeah, not the cream.
Won't go all out. First of all, thank you for those kind words. Wow. If what's the joke they say? If I wish my parents would have been here. If my father was here and heard that, he would have appreciated it. If my mother was here, she actually would have believed it. That's the joke. But thank you. I appreciate it. So yeah, true story. I actually grew up in Vegas. I was born in Vegas, literally, and born and raised. Long story short, went through different, courses of, it's called yeshiva in Hebrew, which is, really in-depth Talmudic and rabbinic study. Ultimately, I ended up getting, fast forward many years, receiving rabbinical ordination, smicha, a couple of them, different types. of that qualification. And then I actually practiced as a rabbi. So long story short, I was formally working as a rabbi in the synagogue here in town. And at first, it was actually very, very full time. I mean, it was all I was doing every day. And one of the things I would say my primary focus was teaching. Okay, it was in different capacities and different groups, whether it was to a larger group on Shabbat with a room full of people, longer talks, shorter talks during the week, more intimate, sometimes one-on-one, or to a smaller group as well. I did that full time. And then ultimately I decided I want to do something else as well. I still want to be, serve as a rabbi, but I want to do something simultaneously. And as time evolved, a fantastic opportunity came up. I started working in the wealth management industry. And that, thank God, has had a very nice path. And that's actually currently what I do now. The only difference is now, more time went on, and I actually decided to take a pause, to step down from doing what I was doing. At the time, it was part-time because I was working as an investment advisor for a firm that's actually based in LA. And, so a lot of back and forth in LA have that overlap. And then I ultimately decided to, step down from working as a rabbi in a formal capacity. Obviously I'm still there in the community and definitely know a lot of the people, but kind of just as a regular, one of the members of the community, so to speak, just a layman. And that's, but that's what you were referring to. That's exactly what happened.
Wow. Now, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to ask you a really tough question because you just got me thinking.
Yeah, go for it.
It's a hard one. Thank you. Thank you. So, and be honest with me, brother. I know it must have been hard to tell your father, he's a rabbi, that, hey, Pops, I'm going to take a break on being a rabbi for the shul.
Yeah.
Was it hard for him to take that you were going to
step
down?
He was shattered. Oh my God. It was very, very difficult. It was, yeah. So just to be clear, and I just don't want to be too long winded, but I want to be very open about this. It was the, possibly the most difficult decision I ever made in my life, and it wasn't something that I woke up one day, and decided one morning, that I'm not going to be a rabbi. It's something that I was deliberating over for a long period of time. And ultimately how the decision came about is, in as much as I really did enjoy it. That's why it was such a difficult decision. And afterward, I missed it tremendously, and I still miss it to a big extent to this day. But ultimately, what I was realizing as I evolved is that it was taking away from my own personal growth that I had to do. And I felt that by getting in front of, a crowd, getting on the pulpit, being on the stage, and in a way, teaching and preaching, that was covering up from the own personal growth that I had to focus on. And it took me a while until I understood that it was a way to run away from what I had to address, just as becoming a better man, a better friend, just everything all around. And that's when I ultimately decided to, I guess, to pull the plug in that way. And it was really devastating, I would say, to both my parents. I mean, one, because they really enjoyed it. It was a closeness that we had, a commonality for sure, like you mentioned. But the other reason is because that was the path that I was on, and that was the path that they thought I was on, and then even when I, cut it back to, and I was working kind of to that part-time, but also kind of, it was my primary thing. And then the wealth management also was my full thing, but kind of doing it simultaneously. Yeah, so it was really heartbreaking for them, but in the end, I think they were supportive of it for sure. And of course, the shul, the synagogue, they told me, they said that you should always feel comfortable to come back if you would like, never feel hesitant or apprehensive, like, oh, you left or you stepped down. In our mind, it's an open door, so to speak. So look, nobody knows what the future has in store. We've seen people come out of retirement, so to speak. But for now, this is where I gotta be at this for the foreseeable future for sure. And I'm so happy. I'm so happy I did it. Oh my God. Like it's I just very often the most difficult decisions are the most rewarding.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I do want to
Yeah.
share something, brother. I it's very powerful what you said about sometimes parents they have already a set plan what they want their kids to be in the future. And I'm gonna give my example, right? I grew up as a single with a single mom, and she wanted me to be a social worker or a doctor, like in those fields, right? Because I was really good at listening, and she was like, I think you should go to school for this. And I told my mom, but I wasn't made to be a social worker. Like I knew my calling when I was a kid. I said, Mom, my calling is to be an actor. And she's like, no, no, you were made to be a social worker. And we used to get into it, right? We used to have arguments. And I said, Mom, no, for real. And so it was hard to convince her so many times, right? And look what happened. I go to college and she doesn't know this. I invite her to this event and she comes in. I said, Mom, you're going to be dressed up. My sister comes, my aunt comes, and my uncle too. And they're all there. And my mom doesn't know what's going on. Coolest thing ever. I was actually the main character of a play at my college, and everyone was cheering. They were laughing. Half time after the whole performance, my professor goes to my mom and says, "Mighty, your son has a voice of communication." And my mom goes crying. She's like, "Wow." My teacher cried too, and they both hugged each other. And for that moment, my mom realized that acting and radio, that was my purpose. This is my where I was supposed to be. And I feel like if you look at like Usher, you look at Michael Jackson. I wouldn't say Usher so much, but let me take it back. I say like Selena, Michael Jackson. Their parents forced them to do music at a very young age. They didn't really give them a choice. Like, hey, you have the option to do music. No, you're gonna do the song, and you're gonna keep doing it. Don't get me wrong, they became successful, but they didn't have a really a youth life. Like when they were young, have play in the playground, um, go to the same school because they were always traveling. You're always in a different, place. And I think that what you shared is very important. Um, I had to somehow explain to my mom that, my purpose is not the same as yours. But, times it's not what you say that your eyes, it's what you do. It's showing. So like for you, brother, I'm gonna be honest, right? You look like a very happy person, very positive. I think having your family see that you bring that light now, that you're in a good state of mind, they're like, wow, I want to be where he's at. I want to be where Chewy's at. I want to get that little spark. And I think that's how I look at it. I see is what if you make yourself happy and you bring people together. Doesn't have to be religiously or spiritually. It could be even a conversation. I think that's very effective. And the best part, brother, I'm going to be honest with you, is that you still, you're still Shomer Shabbos, you're still Orthodox. So you didn't leave the way of life of being Jewish, of being Orthodox. You're still living the straight, you're going the straight path. And I think that is still powerful because you have a lot of knowledge. Like I said, you know more about Gemara than me. I won't win an argument because you already know each volume, so I ain't gonna win that one. But I think that seeing that, I'm even inspired because I want to be like that. I want to be able to, because I'm still in the process of being more religious, and it's a process for me. I just, like I said, I can't wait later on, and once I have my new schedule, I can't wait. So it's a process, and just you got to take one step. You can't do it all at once. You take one step, but that's my little thought, brother. What do you think about the little story I shared?
So it resonated tremendously. Oh my goodness. In terms of sometimes, I mean, obviously, each child is different. So, I feel, at least in our case, in my family situation, um, I was more so than my other siblings, and I got this five boys and one girl. So for some reason, and I mean, it's not. I could go into it, but I kind of just took that path, and I was, in my parents' mind, like more so than any other of my siblings, it kind of was the expectation that here's the guy who's gonna carry on the mantle and be the rabbi, and so that definitely resonated. And then I would say the second point is so crucial, that in as much as whenever I would say someone tries to take a different path, you're always going to be questioned. You're always going to have doubters. You're always going to have haters. And you're always going to have people, even people who love you, who are, thinking, no, you shouldn't be doing that. You got to be, this is the path you got to be on. But then, just like you beautifully articulated, that it gets to a point that when the results, thank God, speak for themselves. And then it gets to a point that it's so undeniable, that this is a good path. And then, their people around you, their mindset begins to adapt. In other words, here's the thing, you can't change somebody else. You can't change anyone else around you. Even, people in your family, people who are really close. You can't change anyone. What you could do is change yourself. And then when that happens, that by default, others around you can see, and it can have a ripple effect. So that I think is so it's so vital, that a person ultimately, you have to be able to to, of course, with help of others. I didn't come to the decision on my own, and that's I would say definitely not in the traditional sense of mentorship, rabbi. I would say as years have evolved, I have found, and we were talking about this as well, in terms of mentors. I've found my biggest mentors are just other men, just plain men, just like you and I, who struggle, and people, first of all, who care. Okay, people who really, of course, have a heart and are there for you. But I would say, even more so, someone who has the ability and cares enough to share with you the truth, even if it's the brutal truth. In other words, I think I once heard from somebody that something to the fact that, I don't know the exact quote, but if somebody cares about you, they'll tell you the truth. If they care about themselves, then they'll tell you what you want to hear. So what that means is, a lot of times, let's say somebody is, I don't know, let's say someone, going through a challenge, or, navigating, towards through a certain situation, and you'll go to your friend or someone who you think cares about you, and you'll start sharing the challenge, sharing the difficulties, sharing frustrations. And if they don't really love you, so then maybe they'll validate you, or they'll say, what you want to hear, and say, yeah, that person or you're dealing with is, terrible. But if the truth is that, wait a second, it has more to do with you, and there's a certain deficiency that you have to be able to have a real, man or multiple men who, hold you accountable and are able to bring to you what you got to hear. That's real, masculine care. And thank God, men really need other men in their lives. And from what I found in my limited experience, is that it's very unique and rare. Most men don't have anybody. Most men don't have anybody who really, really, really cares. And I think, if you're part of a community, that certainly gives you a better shot at it, and that's the beauty of it. And yeah, and I would say so. Two things really: you got to sometimes have the courage to take that different path, and of course, not to necessarily only bank on your own knowledge or what you think is right, but to be able to seek out what other people have to say as well, for sure.
Wow, that was beautiful, but I like that. I like that a lot. I wanna go off something which you said. I think it's powerful. Friendship, right? Friendship and mentorship. They kind of go hand in hand because, like you said, they're gonna be real. They're gonna be tough on you because they care. Um,
Yeah.
and sometimes we don't like that, right? As a man, we want to figure it out by ourselves, but sometimes we need that extra push. I think it's better that way. Like, I'll give you a story I want to share real quick. So I used to study martial arts. I still do it, but back in Chicago, I was being trained, and
There you go. Okay, I'm not going to be picking a fight with you.
uh,
Thinking about it, man. I was thinking about taking a swat, maybe a left hook.
I had to block it. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, when I started, the instructor was so tough on me. Like, I'll do something and he'll like get mad and move my arm, and I was just like, ugh, and I would get frustrated because I felt like I knew what I was doing. But the thing is, I asked um my one of the instructor who became my therapist as well. Like, I hate it because I know what I'm doing, but he's always correcting me and he's always getting mad at me. And so I get mad, and he goes, I'm gonna tell you something. In the Chinese tradition, if the teacher is tough on you, it's because you're their favorite student. If they weren't that tough on you, they wouldn't care. They just said keep going. So look at it like he was, our teacher, he was like that with me when I started. And now I'm still his favorite instructor, one of the staff. And he goes, you got to look at it like that. You're doing something that you stand out. So don't let the anger control you. Take it like he wants me to do better. I got to fix my form or whatever it is, right? My kicks. And so I take that and I remember that, going back to what you said, mentorship. And brother, I know the timer is about to cut us short, but I do want to ask you one last question, right, before we wrap it up. If you can share one pursuit that stands out to you, that, yeah, or inspiring.
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a great, great question. You're hitting me with some tough ones. Oh, I'll tell you something. Okay, something I was just at a client dinner last night, and this just came up. Um, this is huge. This was huge for me. Long story short, just to give some context, when the Jews were leaving Egypt and traveling after being enslaved in Egypt and ultimately trying to get into the land of Israel, they weren't supposed to spend 40 years in the desert. They're supposed to go right in there, right? Go crazy, live it up. Instead, they wanted to send spies. They weren't sure. And ultimately, long story short, they sent the spies and they come back and they said, yeah, it's great. It's beautiful. It has good fruits, etc. But they said that they're too strong for us. We can't get in there. They're giants. And then they said, and here's the pasuk, the verse says that we felt kichagavim, like grasshoppers. We were so small, they were huge and giants, and we can't conquer these people. We're gonna have to go in there, battle them. They said we felt like grasshoppers. And then the pasuk says, these are the three pivotal words. Here they are. V'chein hayinu be'enehem. And not only did we feel like we were grasshoppers, but in their eyes, in the Israelites, the people who, the inhabitants there, in their eyes, we were like grasshoppers. So one of the commentaries I heard once explains, how did they know what in the other's eyes that they viewed them, they perceived them as grasshoppers? How did the Jews know that? The answer is that however a person views themselves, thinks of themselves, feels about themselves, that's how other people are going to think about you. That's how other people are going to perceive you. So if you know in your heart of hearts, you're a hard worker, you're honest, you're charismatic, you come with a positive energy, that's how other people are going to view you in the end. But if you feel that about yourself, no, you're lazy, good for nothing, whatever it is, put all the names on it. You could put up a show, but in the end, however you know yourself to be, that's how people are going to see you. And that's the problem with, when, so often, we think, well, we'll present ourselves a certain way, but, and we'll present ourselves as strong and pure and everything. And then, but really we're weak. The problem is that weakness comes through in the end. Maybe it doesn't come through on the first second, but in the end, if we feel like grasshoppers, others will feel that way about us as well. And that to me is the most powerful pasuk, not to feel about ourselves in an arrogant way, but to genuinely work on ourselves in order to feel about ourselves in a positive light. Either feel and view ourselves in a great way. And if for whatever reason you don't view yourselves, identify in that way, identify why not and work on it. Because however you know yourself to be, that's how other people are going to view you. And that was huge for me.
I love it. I love it, brother. That's good. I'm gonna stop saying I'm a grasshopper. I'm a gangster. That's kidding. I'm a gangster. I'm a lion.
Yeah. So it's a balance, man. It's a balance, and yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. And then obviously it's hard to say a general rule. Like, obviously every situation is different, but as a general rule of thumb, however you view yourself, that's how people are going to know it to be true.
But anyways, fans, thank you for staying tuned. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Cha-ching! Y'all know where to find me. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, The Outlet to Reality. My Snapchat is Take One Pass It, and my TikTok is at Yaakov28. And Chewy, where can my fans find you, brother?
Anywhere. I mean, my cell phone. That's the truth. That's the best. I mean, of course, you got LinkedIn and all that, email, sw@rvwealth.com. But the best thing, my cell, 702-371-2547.